The gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 4 minutes to another gentleman from Texas, Mr. Paul.
I thank the gentleman for yielding.
The gentleman will suspend.
And I ask
the gentleman will suspend. The gentleman is yielding how much time?
4 minutes. 4.
The gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
I thank the gentleman. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this motion to instruct. I think it's a good idea that we don't have the taxpayers bailing out eternally institutions that are bankrupt. But there's an important thing to remember that when an economy gets out of kilter, the marketplace demands a correction of that, and that's usually called the recession. Of course, we're not discussing here today exactly how we get into the excesses, but we do. And unfortunately, debt gets too high and malinvestment gets too excessive, and the market wants to correct this. Now, it's essential that this excessive debt be liquidated. It can be liquidated in 2 different ways. It can be written off by inflationary currency and paid off with bad money, or it can be liquidated by through the bankruptcy process. So I'm in strong support of this, but I also want to make a point here and a suggestion to the conferees that they pay attention to the provision in the House version of our bill dealing with the Federal Reserve. And that provision is called H.R. 1207, which deals with the auditing of the Fed. And there's a difference between the Senate version and the House version. So although we're not talking about that specifically, to me it's important not only for the issue of oversight and transparency, but there's also an opportunity for the Federal Reserve to provide bailout provisions for certain organizations as well. We're talking about taxpayers' fund, the appropriated funds, TARP funds, and others. But when we come to extending loans, in a way this very much is a bailout. So I would like to suggest that that we look at that and stand by the House provision. We do have 319 co-sponsors of this provision.
And I guarantee, because the Senate has acted, we will have tough auditing provisions of the Federal Reserve in the final bill. I do have to note to my friend from Texas that when the Republicans offered a motion to recommit to the bill, they would have wiped out a number of things, including his audit provision. So despite the fact that my friend from Texas temporarily abandoned his audit provision to the perils of a recommittal motion, I will join with him in reviving it. And he should also, as he knows, we have in our bill a severe limitation on this power under Section 13.3 for making these loans. What they did with AIG will no longer be possible. There will be no more loans to individual institutions. But he's been the leader on the audit situation, and I intend to continue to work with him to make sure it's well done.
I thank the chairman, and I would like to just reemphasize that it is the responsibility of the Congress to commit to oversight of the Federal Reserve, something that we have been derelict in doing. And I think the mood of this House and the mood of the Senate and the mood of the country is more transparency and more oversight. The provision that is in the Senate version is not adequate for an audit of the Fed. So I am encouraged that we are getting more attention, because ultimately it is necessary that we understand exactly how the business cycle comes about, how the Federal Reserve participates in this, because under the circumstances of today on what we're doing, we're prolonging our agony, and someday I would hope to see that our recessions, and now we're talking about depressions, are minimized and shortened. And I am concerned that the conditions that we're working, or the programs that we're working with today, are prolonging those changes. So the most important thing that we can do is make sure that we exert our responsibilities, have oversight of the Federal Reserve, commit to these audits of the Federal Reserve, and to not to endorse the idea that the Federal Reserve is totally secret, can do what they want, can bail out other companies and banks and foreign governments and foreign central banks without fully knowing exactly what they're doing. And once again, I thank the chairman of the committee for his support for auditing the Fed. I yield back.